Hey everyone, I'm Kevin with JcrOffroad. In this video, we're going to be installing our rear hatch MOLLE on this Ford Bronco Sport. Now what we're going to need to do is remove this entire interior trim from the inside of this hatch so that we can get it out on a bench and get our MOLLE panel installed. For that, we're going to begin by removing this upper section. You're going to need some sort of plastic pry tool. You can get behind the outside edge here over on the side and just kind of work your way around. Where this attaches here at the lower trim, you're going to kind of need to pry in just a little bit to release that clip, and then that should kind of pop free, and then you can just follow that all the way around. Before the lower half of that trim can come off, you are going to need to put the hatch down briefly and open the glass and remove this small interior trim piece here. Again, with your pry tool, just get between the main panel and this small outer trim, and then you should be able to just kind of pry these two apart. It's all just held in with plastic clips, and then you can separate the two and lift kind of up and back to release these locking tabs. Then back underneath, you're going to have two of these covers to remove, one at each grab handle. So again, plastic pry tool, just get inside of the seam there and kind of pop this apart. Set these off to the side, and then you'll need a T20 Torx driver to remove two screws at each of these handle locations. Now, using those handles as a starting point, you can kind of begin pulling this down to separate it from the hatch. Just use caution because you do still have wiring running to this panel for these lights. So you kind of want to keep this supported as you get it coming down. And then to get this harness disconnected, it should just be a nice easy press with your thumb on this little tab, and that'll slide free. So once you have this out, we'll set it on a bench, and then you can grab your MOLLE panel and begin lining this up so we can mark and drill and get this thing mounted. So for the alignment on this, you're kind of just going to be working off of this bottom and side edges. On the bottom, you're going to be working with this kind of just molding line here in the plastic cover panel. You'll want to set this about a 1/2 to maybe 5/8 of an inch up above there. Make sure it's nice and parallel, and then you can measure in from the sides. You'll be looking for about 3 inches on each side there. Once you're happy with that placement, you can mark each of these holes. I'm going to do it here using a silver Sharpie, which works out pretty well. Just using caution and trying not to move this panel as you're marking these out. And then we can set this off to the side and get these drilled. Now, when you're working with this plastic, it's going to drill pretty easy. We found that a step bit like I have here works pretty darn well. I'm just going to start here with my center hole and drill these out to 5/16 to accommodate and accept our 5/16 carriage bolts. When you're drilling these, you're probably going to want to come back here and kind of pull this white foam material back just a little bit, just so that it doesn't get caught in the drill bit, and kind of try and spin it all up. And then when you're installing the nut on the back side of those bolts, you'll also want to make sure that you're not sandwiching this in with the nut. You'll want to be underneath it, getting that installed. So once you have your holes drilled, you can get your panel kind of roughly lined back up. You'll need to grab a 5/16 carriage bolt from your bolt pack for each of these locations, and then on the back side you'll be installing these aluminum spacers between the MOLLE panel and the hatch panel, and then the 5/16 flange nuts here on the inside. Go ahead and get all these loosely started by hand before we tighten anything up. Once you have all of those started by hand, you'll just need a 1/2 inch socket or wrench, and you can come here to the inside and snug each of these up. With everything tight, we can reinstall this back into the vehicle. Now, since you took this apart, you kind of have a general idea of how it goes back together. You want to make sure before you snap this back in that you reconnect your wiring over here on this side, and then it's just lining up all those clips and popping them back into place. Following that, grab your T20 again and reinstall these 4 Torx screws for the grab handles. Then once those screws are in place, just go ahead and reinstall the plastic covers. Then you can move up front here and begin reinstalling this upper trim section. Now on this, just take a look out on each end. If these little white clips are not on here, you'll want to look back up in this area. You might find them up there. You'll just want to pull them out of that, reinstall them here so that that snaps back in properly. Now you want to make sure that this flex wiring winds up back safely in these little cutouts so that it's not getting pinched when this is installed. And then you're also going to have to pull this seal back over the edge as you work your way around on that window seal there. So now that we have everything back in place here, don't forget to lower your hatch and reinstall this last piece of trim to complete your installation. Now if you guys have any questions about this install or any other JCR product, don't hesitate to reach out to us. You can email us at info@jcroffroad.com or give us a call at 269-353-1184.